There's something in the background here behind me that is the subject of the most frequently asked questions, most commented thing in all of my videos to date. I'm going to try and give you a few clues, see if you can guess. It's something with a long history, something which is all over England and a number of other countries as well. It's actually quite hard not to give it away, and you may have just got it immediately anyway. We're even stood right next to them. It's dry stone walls. They might be a bit far away right now to see, but if you've ever driven through Yorkshire, where we are right now in North Yorkshire, in fact, there's estimated to be around 5,000 miles of dry stone wall in North Yorkshire alone. That's a lot of dry stone wall, and it takes time and skill to build as well. There's a lot of it here, and today we're going to learn a little bit about the history. Not only that, we're going to join this group over here who are going to teach us how it's done. We're about to spend a windy afternoon with the Yorkshire Dry Stone Walling Guild, who are a charity who specialise in dry stone walls. They're experts in how to make these, and they're keeping this art alive. So let's go and join the team, see what's happening, and try and find out, learn a little bit about how these can stand for hundreds of years without collapsing. Some of them do collapse, but many of them are still here. Let's go and see what's going on.
What we normally do is all the top stones come to the highest point, which is this side, and we lay them quite a way back, so it gives us an opportunity to dismantle the wall, lay it out, and put all the packing that's in the middle to one side.
Okay.
Then sort out the foundation, then put it all back.
Yeah. Is it fair to say this is quite an old wall from first glance?
Well, undoubtedly, yeah. It's probably over 150 years old.
Wow. Now these are kind of interesting to me because I've grown up around Yorkshire, and so I see them all the time. I'd say, you know, you can't really go for a walk around Yorkshire without seeing dry stone wall. So you almost take it for granted. But this is a craft and an art form that's thousands of years old. And in many cases, you'll be looking at walls that are hundreds of years old. They can be quite difficult to date from what I've been told. Sometimes you can tell from the materials used, the size of the rocks, the proximity to a village or a farm, and the style, because there are certain techniques used. For example, you might notice we've got some stones sticking out. Not so much along this wall, but sometimes they're very prominent. And if you've ever wondered why, well, we're about to go and find out.
The through stones of these, although they stick out through the wall, they bind the wall together because they pull across both sides. And they're not steps for climbing on.
Yeah.
But they allow the stock in the field to rub up against them as well.
I've always wondered, I didn't know until about a week ago, but I've seen a lot of walls with the throughs really sticking out, and they do look like steps.
It's just tying the two sides of the wall together. Yeah. Right, I'm just going to let this drop.
Just flip it over?
Yeah, just throw it off. Brilliant.
So will you build this back with the same stone or with new stone?
Yeah, we just see what we've got.
Yeah.
When you repair a wall, to take it down and rebuild it, you always build it tighter than it was, so you end up needing more stone. And you find out just how much packing is in the middle. Generally not a lot.
Okay.
So you have to break stone to put something in there.
What we're doing is stripping out down to the foundations. If the foundations are uneven, we'll take the foundations out. So you've got a nice blank canvas to rebuild the wall on.
How long have you been doing walling for?
I learnt in 2005 with the guild.
Okay.
An old guy called John Clifton taught me. He was 70, fit as a fiddle.
Yeah.
I couldn't keep up with him.
Oh, really?
And just learning from working with experienced wallers.
Yeah.
And just, you know, you never stop learning with this. Every piece of stone is different, and it all takes skill to put on.
Do some of them go down quite deep then? You've got quite a lot of stone in the ground.
Foundations, they'll tend to be sort of 6 inches under the ground. What you need to do is build below the edge of the ground, so the foundations are actually bedded into the ground, so there's a bank of soil against them, because what happens over time is that with the weight of the wall will spread out over years and years and years. As it spreads, this stuff in the middle will start to drop down, and then the top will start to collapse.
Right.
But that's a very slow process. You could be talking 150 years before that happens. So. Typically a wall, normal dimensions of a wall would be sort of 2 foot wide at the bottom, up to a foot wide at the top and about 4 foot high.
Yeah.
So your ratios are, your base, your foundations is half your height. So if your height's 4 foot, your base will be 2 foot. Obviously the higher the wall, the wider your base. So if your wall's 6 foot high, you'd probably go with a 3 foot wide base. And then taper, the wall tapers up, it's called batter. So the wall's built in an A shape, wider at the bottom, tapering up to narrow at the top. And then your top, the width of your top is usually half your base.
Okay.
So they're the sort of rough dimensions you'd build a wall on.
You guys been doing this for a while as well?
No, not so long really.
Yeah.
About I don't know, a year or so with that. But we started off self-employed at the start of this year doing it
Oh, right, nice.
ourselves, and we've been enjoying it ever since really.
That's cool.
It was Edgar who taught us to start with. So
I know nothing.
Yeah. How long have you been doing this, Ed?
About 6 years now,
6 years.
just as a hobby.
Yeah. Is it a bit of a cliche that it's like a disappearing skill set, or is that
Oh,
true?
it's
Would you
certainly
say?
disappearing.
Yeah.
Yeah, there aren't very many people doing it now. As I was saying earlier, there's only about 4% of the walls in the UK that are fit for purpose. You need a lot of people to put it all back.
Yeah.
The farmers don't have time and they don't get the grants to do it now.
So the guild is kind of working to spread those skills and
Just
try and
promoting artisan skills, yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if this is true or not, you can fact check it for me, but I read that it would take one person a year to build a mile of dry stone wall. Does that sound like
You can normally say about 2 to 3 meters a day.
2-3 meters a day?
But what you've got to think about is the size of the stone. The bigger the stone is, the quicker it goes up. If you're working with stone that's like that on sort of dress walls, then it takes forever. Yeah.
So what I'm trying to do here is get this foundation stone here. It's a horrible pointed top on it, so it's difficult to build on top of. So we need to get this out,
Take that one out.
and reset.
Looks like a big one.
All the foundations have been dug out. We've got a nice flat base to work off now. So the aim now is to tie in to the existing wall and rebuild this section back to its original glory. So what we're looking for is probably the biggest stones we've got, because you want all the weight in the bottom of the wall anyway, and you don't want to be lifting huge stones 3 or 4 foot up in the air.
Is dry stone walling something that originated in England, or is it?
It actually goes back to Neolithic times. So there's examples in Orkney of dry stone structures that are sort of Neolithic. So it does date way back.
Far back.
Yeah, they were structures that was used for accommodation.
Oh, okay.
And I think it's Orkney they can be found in.
Yeah.
From an agricultural point of view, you're talking sort of 1700s, 1800s, when all this started taking shape. I mean, the beauty of walls is, you know, once you built one and you build it properly, it's going to stand for 150 years.
Yeah.
Whereas you put a fence in, you might get 10, 15 years
true.
out of it, and then you're replacing it all.
Now, the history of land enclosure in England is actually quite a long and complex one. There were centuries of developments and changes in land ownership and agriculture that meant we went steadily from open field systems, open land, to enclosed fields. And over time, one of the results of that was miles and miles, thousands of miles of dry stone wall. It happened at different rates across the country, and there were political consequences to this as well, because some of these changes meant that at the time, people who we would historically refer to as peasants, who previously had access to this land they could farm and profit from, this was taken away from them. That subject in and of itself could be the subject of a whole video on its own. So we're not going to go deep into that today, but maybe in future. But this is one of the consequences. And it's hard to imagine just how long and how much time and work it would have taken to get all of this wall up. There's a few here in the far distance, but in some places around Yorkshire, you'll see them going up steep hills. In a lot of cases built to enclose and protect livestock. And so in 2025, we're kind of left with this epic piece of history just all over the countryside. But a lot of it is not in the best state. This one is really tall. That's taller than me. I'm 6'1". I've not seen many that tall before. So it's kind of left to farmers that can afford to, and charities and groups like the Guild here, to try and do what they can. Number one, to keep that skill going, keep it passing on to new people, and where they can, helping out to repair walls.
All right, okay, well at least we know that now. Thank you, well that's good. I've now been doing this 8 years.
8 years.
So, and then started doing it more full time after leaving a career in IT.
All right.
Prior to that.
So you're doing this outside of the Guild as well?
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah. It's better than being in an office all day. It has some high points to it, that. The office has some high points to it as well, like it's warmer mostly.
True.
But you can see what you've done though, and that makes a massive difference at the end of each day.
Quite satisfying, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
How did you get into it in the first place?
I got booked onto a 2-day course, and because I was always interested, I'd spent a lot of time mountain biking in the Dales, wondering how they actually got put together, and then got 2-day course with the Guild, and that was the start of it.
Went from there.
It grew from there really, and then go through different tests, get asked to help instruct, and carry on doing it at weekends with the Guild. Teaching it's pretty cool.
Pretty fun.
Yeah, well it's good to see other people getting interested in it as well and it growing.
Yeah,
you can bring this back in, bring it, if you like have it so it's in line with the wall, in line with the line, and then hold it. So you've probably got something, have you got a gap at the front underneath? I don't know what size gap it is, but you want something, do you move this off, and then you want something to level it out.
Yeah. Because this is where we're building into this old building.
Yeah. So if you line it with this one, then the next course you can cross the joint, and then you've brought it into the wall. So if you then bring it in like here, and hold it, and then you should have a levelish across here that you can cross, and then your next stone can cross this joint here.
Sorry.
Like magic.
So 2 hours in, they've taken the whole wall down, taken out the foundation level, and maybe about a quarter of the height rebuilt. How long have you been coming to the Guild sessions?
Coming to the Guild for about a year. We did like a sort of beginner's course where they sort of taught you the foundations, quite literally. And then sort of it's a nice social aspect to it as well. So although we are walling full time, it's nice to come and do it with different people and sort of enjoy the craft as a group.
Yeah. Had you been doing it before then as well, or was that your first?
No, so I was a bricklayer for 4 years before, but we did mainly stone houses. So I wouldn't say I'm a complete novice to stone. Well, I wasn't, but it's a different type. and there's a whole set of different rules that, you know, they don't share, but it's a similar sort of thing.
Yeah. And now this is your full-time
Yes,
job
yeah.
outside
So
of
we're
today.
both self-employed. We're going since the start of the year and sort of enjoying it. It was a change of pace that I was looking for. Building sites are really busy and loud, and then when I went self-employed, it all went a bit quiet.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
Oh, really?
But some of the places that, you know, that you go, there's only a select few people. If you're working on a farm, chances are it's only that farmer that sees that view. You know, if you're not near a footpath, you'd never know.
That's
So
true.
I do feel sort of privileged to be working in the sorts of areas that we are.
Yeah. And I can see here some examples where there's just no filling. Well, there is filling somewhere in there, but you can see all the way through the wall, which it sounds like is not necessarily something you want, but you will find in a lot of these older walls. These are all our top stones, pretty varied in size and shape as well. This bit is like, it's like none of it matches almost. I'm almost a bit scared to touch that because this looks like it's already on its way down. But as they mentioned, you know, thousands and thousands of miles, not always time, resources and money to get it done in the ideal way. And there are records of some landowners hiring people to build dry stone walls in the past to help alleviate poverty, which is something that's happened and been done in many different ways. Some follies around the nation were constructed for similar reasons, to provide people work in hard times, and some dry stone walls for the same reason. What's the best way for someone to find out where they can come along to one of you?
So the Guild has got, there's a contact us email, but there's also drop down sections on the site which show you events, of which this is one. So events are when you get stuck in and you're participating and you've done some walling already, and then there are 2-day courses that are also in there as well, which are for you to say, well, I know nothing about walling, and arrive somewhere and then come back having learnt something. So after that you tend to go to the events, and they're generally each month from April through to November.
Okay. You're almost at the top stones then.
Yeah, we're almost at the top, yeah. As we build it, we're trying to level off both sides as much as we can so we can get some cover on the top. So the top stones actually sit on something that presses down on both sides.
So now it's narrowest point as well.
Yeah, it just ties the top in, stops the movement. I need to pack that a little bit.
Yeah.
And it just finished off the wall. As you can see, we're level there. We just need another thin layer up to here. This line needs to come up, and then we'll get the top installed.
Match the level.
Yeah.
Yeah. For so many walls, where does all the stone come from?
Various sources. A lot of it was field clearance, so stone was probably naturally occurring because the glaciers moved down the valley and deposited a load of stone in the valley, and then they cleared the stone off the fields so they could cultivate it. And the obvious thing to do was to build a wall with it.
Yeah.
And the other place is quarries. So they come in on quarries. So back in those days, it would have been horse and cart from a quarry and brought in that way.
Yeah. So a bit of a mix then.
Yeah, a combination of both.
Yeah.
But you know, when you see some of the walls going up over the hillsides and that, and you think, you know, there was no mechanical handling in those days. It was all done by horse and manpower. So this is probably what you call field stone. It's sort of rough and ready, all shapes and sizes, and then you can get from quarries probably all sort of flat bedded stone, so you get a different look to your wall.
So you'll be able to tell from looking at a wall if it's likely quarried or field stone, I guess.
Usually, yeah. Then, you know, most this is limestone, and then the other one is sandstone that you get, and it varies from area to area, just whatever's naturally occurring.
Is it known what like the oldest walls are in this area or in Yorkshire or?
It really, I suppose the way you can date them is through land registry. I once found a bottle of HP sauce, but the manufacturer was, I think, called Dalton's, and they only manufactured it from 1905 to 1908 or something like that. before they got bought out by HP as it is now. So you could actually date the wall, because the guy who'd been walling it must have had a pie, a bit of brown sauce, and he's emptied the bottle, popped the bottle in the wall, and it survived all the years. So when I stripped the wall out, the bottle was still intact with the name on it. So I could actually date the wall.
That's handy.
from a bottle of sauce, believe it or not.
That's really good luck.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're all coming for a cuppa. Very important, isn't it?
Well done by your right foot.
Done? Nice. How many years is this going to be stood for then?
Well, hopefully
1.5.
more than my lifetime.
Yeah.
And I'm planning to live to 110. Well done, guys.
Yes, I'm done.
Yeah.
All right, there we go, job done. That's a big job. So we got here at 9 this morning. Started probably 20 past, half past 9. It's now 10 past 3. Short lunch break in the middle, but that's hard work. But it's so interesting to see all the stages that go into that. And seeing it from start to end, now it makes sense how they can stand for so long, for hundreds of years, sometimes way longer. And it's because it's not just a stack of stones, but there's careful detail, the thought that goes into it. It's wider at the base than it is at the top. It's got all the fill in the middle, the smaller stones. We've got the through stones that help bind it all together. And then we've got the top stones that help to condense and hold everything in place as it settles into the land. And it's these steps that have meant that all these thousands and thousands of miles of dry stone wall around North Yorkshire is still here. And for the same reason, there are other walls thousands of years old that are still standing in other parts of the world and other parts of England. I want to give a massive thank you to everybody at the Yorkshire Stonewalling Guild. They didn't ask me to come today, I actually asked them because I got so many questions on past videos about walls as we were walking through various parts of Yorkshire. Lots of questions that up until now I never had the answers to. But now I feel like I do, and hopefully you do as well. Some of the mysteries have been explained. If you want to add more to the discussion, you've got some more knowledge, information about dry stone walls, please let us know in the comments. If you want to support the guild or you want to come along with them and learn how to do dry stone walling, you can join up £10 for a membership, which to be honest, I think is a really fun thing to do. Even if you're not from Yorkshire, I can totally see tourists who are spending a bit of time here, but just want to do one half day learning how to do this, hanging out with the team and practicing dry stone walling. Something that I would never have considered in the past, but now, absolutely I would. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you for all your support on the videos recently, making these trips and these journeys possible. If you've been watching, liking, subscribing, sharing, commenting, and of course, if you've been gifting or joining as a member on YouTube, all of those things are what make these trips and these journeys possible. So thank you so much, and fingers crossed, I'll see you next time.